All right, welcome to Oregon Ducks Live on the Voice of College Football. I'm Bjorn Bergstrom.
I'm Brody Gobler.
And I'm Brendan Everly.
All right, in this episode, we're going to be previewing the Oregon versus Washington, which is this Saturday at 12:30. And then we're going to do some keys to the game, look at the betting lines for the game, and then provide our best bet. And then we're also going to be debating college football playoff, which came out last night. All right, you guys ready to get into it?
Absolutely.
All righty. So Washington, we can start with their offense. Do a little breakdown real quick. They're scoring. They're 19th in the country, averaging 35.5 points per game, rushing 57th at 170 yards per game, 40th in passing with 256.5 per game. Their leader is Damon Williams, their quarterback. He's not tall, 5'11", 190 pounds, but he makes up for it with his speed and athleticism. He's accurate in the pocket. He gets out of the pocket, likes to get out of the pocket and scramble. They do some designed runs with him. He's at 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this season. 72% of his passes been completed. And he's second on the team with 568 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. We debated a little bit last week, Brody, where we're debating where Jaden Maiava, USC's quarterback, ranks in the Big Ten. Where do you guys think Damon Williams ranks? And Brendan, we can start with you because you weren't here. So
yeah, okay. Well, I think Damon is actually a pretty good quarterback. I think he still really has to develop his arm talent, I think. But he's very lethal on his legs. Like I think he's going to torch Oregon's defense in that regard because you haven't faced a super mobile quarterback like that. And I think he's going to definitely provide some offense for UW in this game. But outside of that, I don't think he's like anything too special. I would say he's probably a middle tier quarterback, probably like 7-8 range. Like he's probably better than a guy like Aiden Childs or some of those lower tier, or like Preston Stone from Northwestern. He's probably better than some of those guys, but outside of that, I mean, he's not much better. He's not better than like Dante Moore or the Indiana's quarterback Fernando Mendoza, or Julian Sayin or Bryce Underwood or any of those guys. So I would put him in kind of just like the middle tier range. I would even say Luke Altmaier's definitely better.
all right, I would put Damon Williams at probably number 5. I would put him. It'd be the top 3: Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon guys, and then I would put Maiava at 4, and then I think Damon would be my 5. I think Altmaier, there's a case there. I think Drew Aller, obviously he fell off and got injured, but I think there's also a case there, preseason at least, if you're looking at that. Bryce Underwood, that's another conversation, I think. 2 completely different players, skill sets, frames. Damon he's a true sophomore, so he's young. He still has a lot of time to grow. I just think this season he's been very explosive, and he's really, they're 19th in scoring behind him, and there's been injuries around him, so I think he's been great for them this year, and I think he's top 5.
Yeah, I think that 5-6 range is where we had him last week, but it is officially Huskies hate week, so I'm going to agree with Brendan this week and go back on my opinion. So, Damon's obviously really talented, great scrambler. I feel like he's like pretty accurate for the type of quarterback he is and his frame. Not sure if he's going to be an NFL guy. I think he's just going to be a good college guy, maybe have a couple years in the league. Because UW just doesn't produce NFL talent, so it's a solid quarterback. He might be the only non-insufferable person on their entire roster. So I like Damon.
I think bold prediction here. I think he'll be a Heisman candidate as soon as next year. I think he has the talent to do that, and I think with Jonah Coleman being gone next year, it's going to be even more of the offense is going to be on Damon Williams, and Jed Fish knows that. Jed Fish was the one who elevated him to start over Will Rogers, I believe, last year.
Yes.
So I think Fish is going to put a lot on his plate next year, and he could be a dark horse candidate.
I think the real question is if either of those two people, Damon or Fish, are even going to be at a stepping stone program like UW next year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Brad. That's a great point. There's been a lot of buzz about Jedd Fisch leaving. All these, pretty good opportunities. Jedd Fisch does not like it in UW. His family's not there anymore. Like, they've already moved. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they both decide to hit the portal. But I don't know. I do think Damon is really talented. I actually followed his recruiting quite a bit out of high school because he went to high school like where I was from. And so, I knew that he was a very talented guy. He was a 4-star guy that committed to Arizona initially, but then once Jedd Fisch moved up to UW, then he ended up flipping and following his coach. And he's really talented. I don't know. I think if he comes back for a senior year, then yes, I could see him being a Heisman candidate. I just think that he's a bit too grumpy in the pocket, and he's like more of a run first type of guy, which is good, and that does lead to being a Heisman. But I don't know. I don't know if he's got the help there for that to happen or any sort of publicity like that. You got to realize like being the Heisman also requires some high level publicity. I don't know if UW gets the kind of attention that a lot of these quote unquote bigger schools get.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I hate him, Michael Penix a couple years ago, he probably would have had a much stronger argument if he had a SEC logo on his jersey instead of a UW logo, because that's just the way they treat the Pac-12 and their publicity. You have to have a generational season like Mariota had in 2014. Shout out the GOAT to like even be in consideration. So I think if Damon went to, like a real program like Florida, had some real receivers like Dallas Wilson or someone like that, I think he definitely could be in the Heisman conversation. But as long as he wears that ugly purple, I don't think he'll ever be in those conversations.
I think Brendan makes a good point about publicity, especially with, Washington's first 3 games, they played at 8 p.m., which is obviously 11 on the East Coast. Nobody's staying up for these games. Same with Jonah Coleman. Jonah Coleman was seen as an early season Heisman candidate because he was putting up these he had, I think, 6 or 8 touchdowns.
I remember that. I remember they were saying that people were saying that he was the next Ashton Genty. Jonah Coleman was the next Ashton Genty, and then look where he's at now. He's in like 15th place in rushing yards in the Big Ten. Granted, he got hurt a little bit, but 4.8 yards per carry, which ranks like, I think it was like 16th or 17th in the Big Ten, which is not what you want to see. So
yeah, it's just hard for a team in the Pacific Northwest that plays late games to have publicity. And if you're a small quarterback and I don't see Washington contending in the Big Ten in the near future. That's also hard to win a Heisman. But at the end of the day, I think he does have the talent. I think he has the talent.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, like you said, like if he transfers to an SEC school and does what, say, John Mateer is doing or something of that caliber, I think he'd be in a better position to win the Heisman there. If we want to get into Jonah Coleman more throughout the offense, he's their starting running back. He missed the last 2 games with a knee issue, but he is expected to play. He began his career at Arizona, then followed Fish to Washington. Last season, he was over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. This year's at 651 yards and 14 touchdowns. 5'9", 230 pounds, downhill runner. He's also over 300 receiving yards. So he's at almost 1,000 all-purpose. And if he, for some reason, isn't able to play, the backup is Adam Muhammad. He went over 100 yards last game against UCLA, so he's a viable backup.
The backup's actually pretty good.
Yeah. All right, so where do you guys rank Jonah Coleman amongst Big Ten backs?
Who wants to go first?
I know Brendan.
I think
Brendan feels strongly.
All right.
I
feel the same way as Brendan. But Brendan, go ahead.
Okay, so I really think Jonah Coleman is not very good. I would put him at like the 15th best like running back in the Big Ten. Like maybe not exactly 15, but anywhere from like 13 to 17 range. And I'll get into that. I can go into that more in depth, which I will, because the Nebraska running back, Johnson's better. Both the Penn State running backs, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, are better. I believe that Rutgers running back is definitely better. He's got much better numbers on the season.
Yeah,
and he's
produced Raymond.
in a poor offense. Northwestern's running back, who is ranked 4th in the Big Ten when it comes to rushing yards, and he's kind of a similar kind of guy to Jonah Coleman, and he's got significantly more rush yards on similar amount of carries.
Yeah, he started the season as a third string guy, and then injuries got him in the lineup. He's excelled. So yeah,
exactly. That's how mediocre Jonah Coleman is. And then to move on from that, I would say both of Michigan's running backs are better. Haynes and Marshall. They have much better numbers, much more explosive. They're just better. Period. Bo Jackson from Ohio State's one of the better young running backs in the country. There's no argument there. King Miller, watched him play in person last week. He was actually pretty phenomenal. A good pass catcher. Like he had a terrible game against Oregon, but yet he still is one of the top running backs in the Big Ten, which kind of goes to show. And then I would argue that all 3 of Oregon's running backs are better. I think De'Aaron Hill, Davison, and Whittington would all start at UW over him. I don't think there's any world where they wouldn't. De'Aaron Hill is just a lot more explosive, and based on yards per carry and receiving yards, which De'Aaron Hill has most of our receiving yards for our running backs, like he's just better. And then if we look at Indiana's running back, Hemby and Black, they're both definitely better. And then you could argue that Iowa's running back's better. I mean, maybe. I think that's their scheme kind of really, gives them the yards. But I don't know. I named a lot of guys right there. Wherever you want to put him in there, but
I also think we should take into consideration that Damon Williams helps out Jonah Coleman significantly, because if you run any zone option or any option at all, you're accounting for another player in the box that you don't have to block, that the offensive line doesn't have to. And the fact that Jonah Coleman's only averaging 4.8 yards a carry with that electric of a running quarterback to help him out and help him get favorable matchups, I just honestly don't think he is as talented as people think he is. He was hyped up being next to Ashton Genty, said he was going to run for 300 yards against Oregon last year, and he got a whopping 9 feet. So I think he's a loudmouth. I don't think he actually is talented. I don't think he's going to make the NFL. I think the real question is if Jonah Coleman would even be a top 5 back on Oregon's roster, let alone on UW. I think Guy Hughes is better than him too. So
yeah. Also, I forgot to mention another running back that is definitely better is Darius Taylor from Minnesota, and he's just been injured. Like there's a lot of guys that have been injured that are better, just straight up. So I don't know. I'm not super high on Jonah Coleman.
I think I would draw the line at 10. I think he's definitely a top 10. He's a top half running back, starting back in the Big Ten. I'm not buying that Oregon's all 3 running backs are better. I don't think Noah Whittington is better than him.
Noah Whittington? What are you talking about?
I don't think
Noah Whittington's probably our best back, dog.
No, I know.
Yeah, Noah Whittington is our best back.
He is the best. I think Jordan Davison's. I think talent-wise, Jordan Davis.
He has the most talent, but our best back is Whittington. He gets the most. He's the starting guy for a reason. Like Dan would have no problem with starting De'Aaron Hill or Davison over Whittington. Like,
that is true.
We do run a committee. Like we got 3 guys that we run.
I mean, imagine Jonah Coleman with this Ducks line. I mean, they open holes as they.
Noah Whittington averages 7.7 yards per carry. 7.7 yards per carry.
Well, that's because they're not getting contacted. They're not getting contact till 3 yards downfield. They're one of the best offenses, and it is. There was a stat on the last broadcast. They're second in the nation in yards before contact. So that's just goes to show
even if
just
that's
how good
true,
this scheme is.
Again,
even if that's true, Whittington is one of the best backs you will ever see at hitting the hole and getting whatever yards are available. Like he's a very talented back. He will play in the NFL, and he'll probably go. I think he's better than Jordan James was last year. Jordan James went in the 4th round?
Better.
He's going to be an NFL guy, just like Jordan James is. And I would argue that he's been better. He's better at reading like the hole, like just knowing when to get yards. And then he's better at just keeping his feet going. Like there's multiple times he's a hard back to bring down.
He is. He kind of is. He's kind of like I remember when he first came in, prior to his injury, like I would say last year, objectively, George James was definitely better than Noah Whittington, but I think that Noah Whittington was just not fully healthy, based off of his injury. So we didn't really know what to expect this year from Noah Whittington, but he is kind of showed glimpses of what he was when he first came to Oregon on that first year with Bucky. Where honestly, Bucky's first year at Oregon, Noah Whittington outshined Bucky, like straight up. Like there was plenty of times where I was watching Noah Whittington and he was a better pass catcher. He would hit the hole a lot better. Bucky had a bit of a problem where he would just bounce it out and then he would get tackled for loss a lot, which we had a really good offensive line. Oregon's had one of the best offensive lines for what feels like 10 years in a row now. And there was no excuse for Bucky Irving to be getting tackled in the backfield with how good he is with his contact balance and how powerful he is. So Noah Whittington is definitely an elite running back. I would argue he's probably top 3 in the Big Ten, and you could probably argue he's probably top 10 in the country.
Top 10 in the country. I think that's stretching it for me, but I digress. We gotta keep it moving. We'll move further along the offense. So Denzel Boston is their top receiver. He's Williams' go-to target. 6'4", 210, caught 52 passes for 730 yards, 8 touchdowns. He's a good jump ball target, but he also has great body control. There's buzz that he could be an early round pick, not necessarily first round in 2026, but day 2, early day 3. So he's an NFL receiver. Washington has a history of NFL receivers. So we can ask that same question. Where does he rank amongst Big Ten wide receivers?
I mean, I haven't been giving a ton of credit to like DeMond or Jonah Coleman, but when it comes to Denzel Boston, I'll give him a lot of credit. I think he's a really talented receiver. I think he's almost a poor man's Rome Odunze. And I actually think he could be just as good in the NFL. Like he's a big receiver with really good body control. And he's got great hands. I think he's extremely underrated. I think he would start on he would probably be like the 1 or 2 on every single Big Ten team's receiving core. I think he would very easily be our number 1 right now, with our injuries. And I think even with Dak Moore playing, I still think he would be our number 1 over Dak Moore. Dak Moore is just more of a slot guy. And I think Denzel he's just a lot more versatile. He's a big body, good speed, great hands. I would say he's probably like, I would say he's like top 5 to top 7. I would say he's in that 5 to 7 range. That's just kind of how I feel about him.
Yeah, I feel like Denzel Boston's one of those few guys on the UW offense that's actually like underrated. I feel like everyone else is just talks it up, a bit overrated, but Denzel Boston's genuinely a very talented player. He's definitely not on the same level as Jacoby Lane. You could argue with the Indiana pass catchers, but I think he is probably going to be the guy that we need to focus on the most, besides stopping DeMond scrambling and game plan for that. But I think that this game we'll see if Finney improves and doesn't slip every time a ball goes up in the air. Because Finney proved that he can stay with those elite Big Ten receivers last week. It's just whether or not he can make a play on the ball, and he can develop those ball skills as a young corner trying to face off with the best receivers in the country. So we'll see if he learned this week or if he'll get treated similarly to how he was guarding Jacoby Lane.
Yeah, that's a great point because, Finney was very handsy last week. And then, he did have several instances where he lost his footing, and that's where he had to grab. And that was, teams hadn't really targeted him. We talked about this last week, Brody. Teams hadn't really targeted him, but USC went right at him. Minnesota went right at him a couple times.
Yeah, Minnesota did,
Yeah, so I think that's another thing you'll see. And I fully expect him to take on the challenge with Denzel Boston. And, he's their top receiver, so they have no choice but to target him. As far as where he ranks in the Big Ten, I would also say top 5. I'd agree with Brendan. I think Jeremiah Smith is above him, Carnell Tate, the Ohio State duo. I'd say Elijah Surratt from Indiana. Omar Cooper Jr., there's an argument to be made. I don't think I'd still put Boston over him.
Yeah,
and then
I agree.
Lemon and Lane from USC. So I think, and then Hank Beatty, Illinois, KJ Duff, Ian Strong, Rutgers guys, they're pretty good. But I think he's right in the conversation as top 5, 5 or 6,
Sure.
I think, in my opinion. And we can get to the defense.
Wait, hold on. We are. Listen, right now we're talking about receiver.
Yeah.
There's a lot of buzz right now, which we haven't talked a ton about recruiting on this podcast, which we will eventually. That's a little bit more towards the offseason thing. But early Christmas is coming up as a Duck fan on December 3rd. That's early National Signing Day. There's been a lot of buzz about Chris Henry Jr. Now, that would be a pretty phenomenal flip. If we can pull him from Ohio State, I think he's going to be really, really good. I don't know if you guys have done enough research on him, but Chris Henry Jr. with Dak Moore could be absolutely lethal. It could be some shades of Jefferson and Chase situation going on at Oregon. Just with Dak Moore's speed, he's very similar to Jamar Chase, his skill set, an elite slot guy, and Jefferson is kind of where I see Chris Henry, kind of a bigger body with elite hands and elite route running. Like, man, those two could be torching the league with Dante Moore. So hopefully it's not all false rumors, but we all know that Dak Moore commented on, or he tweeted on X, and he said that he needs Chris Henry Jr. by his side next year, and Chris Henry Jr. has that pinned on his Twitter. So we'll see. Yeah. And I know for sure Dak Moore ain't going to Ohio State. He's not going to no bummy program. But
yeah,
Oregon also is willing to offer the most money. So
yeah, Chris Henry Jr. is absolutely phenomenal. And then we also have Jalen Locke coming in. We have Gatlin Blair on a mission coming back, I believe, next year, right, Brendan?
Yeah. No.
After 2026.
No, I think he's back next year. Gatlin Blair was a 5-star.
Pretty sure he's back next year.
Yeah. Even next year, but he's a speedster. And then also Messiah Hampton's a really highly ranked 4-star wide receiver, which I'm excited to get. I think he's the 5th or 6th wide receiver in the class, which, I mean, having Jalen Law, who's the number 2 or number 3 guy, depends.
Number 2 on some sites.
Yeah, number 2 on some sites. I mean, I use kind of rivals on 3. Those are the main ones that I look at. And he's top 3, and he's number 3 there, but number 6 for Messiah Hampton, who is also a stud. But man, if we can land Chris Henry Jr., I will be very happy. So look out for that on December 3rd.
Yeah, I think a guy who could really
coming back next year.
That's true. Yeah, I think a guy who sometimes gets overlooked in the receiver room is Jeremiah McClellan. I think he's a redshirt freshman this year. And he's had to step up in the absences of the other guys, and I think that's going to do him very well down the road if he stays. I think he will. I don't see any indication that he'll leave, but I think with his frame, he could be a number 2, even fringe
for
number
sure.
1 guy.
No, he's a very talented guy. I mean, he's honestly played phenomenal outside of that one drop that he had on 3rd down and 9 where he just slipped and then face planted, which I don't know what he was doing. But it happens, man. The turf monster got him. But no, he's been great. He was another guy that we flipped from Ohio State on signing day a couple years ago, which that was one of Ohio State's best receiver gets that year, and we ended up flipping him. We'll see. I think receiver right now is a question mark for Oregon, but I think the future is probably the brightest it's ever been at receiver, which is, oh my God, it's something that I've been wanting to say so badly at Oregon. Because we've always had such good, the last 10 years, we've been blessed with offensive line talent and quarterback talent and running back talent. It's just the receivers have always been kind of our, I don't know. I mean, tight ends even been good. Terrence Ferguson was a 2nd-round pick last year. We had Spencer Webb for a little while, who sadly passed away, and then Kenny Sadiq right now, who's been torching the league. And then in the future, we're going to have Jamari Johnson next year, which he's going to be a beast. But receivers always been a question mark.
Then we also had Juwan Johnson a few years back. Oregon's receiving talent, the best receivers we've had really is Troy Franklin and Johnny Johnson, and obviously Tez. Those are talented receivers for the college level, but we're talking about Dak Moore, Galen Blair, Chris Henry Jr. Like those dudes, like these 5-stars coming in, even Evan Stewart, like if you can get back to the level, like those are potentially 3 to 4 first-round guys, and that's just not something that Oregon has really had or even had buzz about before.
Yeah.
Troy had a little bit of first-round buzz, and he ended up going in the fourth, I believe. Ross Douglas, like what a hire for Oregon. I mean, I think he was at Syracuse before. He was with the Patriots for a little bit. Like he's obviously putting in a lot of work right now, and like I'm excited for that. I wonder how we're gonna look at him and interview him if Stein ends up going to a program as a head coach. If we're gonna look to Ross as a OC potential replacement.
I don't think Stein has done any sort of interviewing or anything. But I do believe Tosh interviewed at Cal yesterday, which is his alma mater. But Tosh is kind of one of those guys where he's a phenomenal recruiter. He's a good coordinator. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. I don't know if he loves being a head coach. I think he would honestly prefer to be a DC and just stay at where he's at. We'll see. Again, when it comes to your alma mater, it's a little different. I mean, we saw it with Kenny Dillingham. But supposedly there's a lot of buzz about Kenny leaving ASU and heading to Florida, which kind of doesn't surprise me, but it kind of does in the same way because when he left for ASU's his alma mater. ASU was in a pretty good spot, like with the recruiting and who they were. They had an identity, and Kenny turned that program into a playoff contender. And right now they're a ranked team. They have a ranked matchup this weekend, which that'll be a fun game to watch. ASU and U of A, which are both ranked teams. But with Cal just feels like they're just much further behind than a place like a place like ASU. And I don't know if Tosh wants to fully commit to a big rebuild like that, but we'll see.
Yeah. You got it.
No, I was gonna say even the conversation we had with Tosh a few years ago, Brendan. We were talking to him about coaching and what it was like to coach at Oregon, and Tosh was telling us don't get into coaching. This stuff takes so much time. He was really adamant about how hard it is on him and his family, and I'm not sure if he wants to increase that workload even. So.
I mean, Dan looks like he never gets any sleep. I mean, Dan looks like he maybe gets 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night, which is for some people just a nap. But I don't know I love Tosh, but I don't know if he's built for the head coach role. So we'll see.
I think he would absolutely excel in it. He's a great coach, great recruiter. I think he would do really good things. Is that what he wants? I guess we'll see. It's your alma mater. It's kind of hard to say no to. I mean, the fact that Dilly would be an absolutely fantastic hire for Florida. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country. Just saw a video about him the other day, how he was the coffee boy. And he said he was going to be the ASU head coach by 30, and everyone's calling him crazy. And here he is at, I think, 35. He's head coach at ASU, and he's just progressed his career so much to the point where, a premier program like Florida is trying to poach him away from his alma mater. So I feel like Dilly's kind of similar to Dan, where he's loyal to a fault, and I feel like any other coach in the country would immediately accept the Florida job. But I guess we'll see if ASU is going to pony up the money to keep him and give him the NIL budget that he needs to, really have a great pipeline in Arizona. You have access to the Cali schools. You have Arizona. You're pretty close to Texas, honestly, too. Arizona football is very quality football. It's probably top 3 to 5 in the country as far as high school football. Arizona State is a scary program moving forward in the future if he stays there and builds. And competition in Florida with Florida State and Miami, and you have to compete with all the SEC schools too. As far as recruiting goes, is it that much more favorable? We'll see. It's really dependent on what ASU wants to do and how much money they want to give him for his roster and for himself. So
yeah, I think with Dillingham, he's shown that he can develop QBs. Sam Levitt, he elevated him right away, and now he's 3-0 with Jeff Sims, which is that's a whole feat in itself, because Jeff Sims has not had success at the college level. And I think at Florida he's got DJ Lagway if he comes back. I think that's a similar thing as to Tosh. I think it might hinge on if he can convince Jaron Kiave Sagapotele to stay. And that could be if he, if Sagapotele enters the portal, I think that greatly lowers the chances of Tosh heading there. And I think that Cal program, it's an uphill battle to win when they're winning. Football is not their main focus. Sports in particular aren't really their main focus. But it's alma mater. It's what would be a dream job for a guy like Tosh. So that's what you're competing against. So
yeah, I mean, also I want to point out that was phenomenal pronunciation of JKS's name there.
Thank you. Jaron Kiave.
Something else to point out is, you kind of touched on it actually, that if Kenny does go to Florida, because DJ Lagway has been very vocal about staying at Florida, what then happens with Sam Levitt? Because you would think that Kenny would bring his guy who he's got a lot of faith in, because Sam Levitt still has another year. Like that would be a very interesting portal guy. We think Dante's going to come back, but say he doesn't, which honestly I'm surprised he's going to come back because he's going to be a top 10 pick. But I digress. Sam Levitt's from Oregon, so that could be someone to look out for in the portal. But again, same thing with Jared. He was another guy who was committed to Oregon, actually signed with Oregon, and was on campus, but ended up leaving once he saw how good Dante was, because he wanted to start right away. And he's played good at Cal, but I think he needs a little time to kind of be thrown into the fire a little bit. But we shall see.
I think JKS is one of the best pure throwers of the football in the sport. Like those first 4 games, like Cal was like getting some serious buzz because of how talented JKS is. He's putting balls on the money, and his receivers are dropping it. So I think that if Dante does leave, I think that should be like our number one priority in the portal. Honestly, is someone like JKS, maybe even like Levitt. But I feel like Levitt is going to go to somewhere like Miami. Even if Dilly stays at ASU, there's some buzz about him just leaving straight up, even if Dilly does. So Dilly stays. So we'll see. I feel like this will be a very interesting portal season for Oregon.
Sure.
With Bjorn, you're talking about like Dan might say it's a 2-year window, but he would never say it. So is he in Dante's ear similar to when he was at UCLA? Like he came back when he came back to Oregon from UCLA. He was like, I always should have been there. Like I should have trusted you guys. Is he going to trust Dan and Stein for like one more year in that window? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, like you said, I think it's going to be a very interesting portal season. I think at the quarterback position, I think we can see a lot of movement, and especially if Dante leaves, that'll put Oregon right in position to land one. And even if he doesn't, like guys could see the blueprint that Dante did, where you sit behind a guy for a year, and then he's gonna be gone and be drafted. So I think regardless if Dante stays or leaves, we could definitely add in the portal. All right, we got to get into their defense. Washington back on track to the preview. So their defense is solid. They're 19th in the country in scoring as well, giving up 18.8 points per game. 18th in run defense, 103, so just over 100 yards. Pass defense, they're 41st, so 200 yards. Top guys are Zari Alexandri's a linebacker, 6'2", 223. So he's pretty slight at the linebacker position. I think Ducks could target him in the run game. He flies around the field and makes tackles, but he's obviously not the biggest guy. He transferred to Washington from UCF. He's averaging 9 tackles per game over the past 4 games. Really caught his stride. He's at 60 tackles. But their guy on defense is safety Alex McLaughlin. Transferred from Northern Arizona. He leads the team with 81 tackles from the safety position, 6'2", 200 pounds. So he has a good frame from the safety position. He could also be a factor in the run game. 2 interceptions as well, 1 return for a touchdown. So the defense is solid. It's better than USC's, that's for sure. But it's definitely not I wouldn't say a top tier defense in the Big Ten.
No.
Yeah, I think it's also important to point out with their pass defense that their completion percentage allowed is a lot higher. Their yards is kind of like propped up. I don't think it's as strong as a pass defense as the stats say it is. And as far as their like run defense, like I still think Oregon is more talented in the trenches, even with the injuries on our offensive line. Like we got to see where Poncho and World and Harkey are all at going into this week. But even if it is that group against USC, I still think we'll see more success on the run game than their defense if stats suggest.
Yeah, I mean Charlie Pickard and Fox Crater, they really stepped up. So I think those guys, you could arguably start on half the Big Ten teams in the country, and it's just their love for the program. Charlie Pickard's senior, so senior day, that was awesome moment for him. Fox Crater's a redshirt freshman, talented kid. So I think those guys, they could step up if needed. Obviously, you want the starters in those positions, but I think we have the talent, we have the depth to challenge that defense and run the football, and that we can get into some keys for the game. I think running football is the first one, and it's been that for all season. Got to establish the run, take the crowd out of it, especially. It's going to be a ruckus crowd. Husky Stadium is loud. It's not as loud as Autzen, but those fans are rowdy, and it's a big rivalry game. So pounding the rock, get it going on the first drive, get in the end zone, really quiet the crowd. I think that would be a great tone setter for the Ducks.
Yeah.
I think running the ball, especially on away games, is definitely always harder unless you go under center. It's just going on a silent count and trying to run the ball is always harder. But like you said, it's not as loud as Autzen. Their crowd is, they're all right. So we'll see. I think we need to definitely just continue this balanced attack that we've had these last couple of days. Feed Sadiq, get the ball into the hands of our studs. Hopefully, Dak Moore is back. I don't know if I've seen any buzz one way or the other. Same thing with Stewart. So
I believe they're both questionable right now.
I'll just be interested to see who plays really and how we can get them involved.
Yeah.
I would if I had an inclination on if they were going to play, I would expect them not to. I would expect them to use that 20 to 21 day window for the playoff game. And that gives Evan Stewart a guaranteed only 4 games. So he could have that medical red shirt.
The playoffs don't count towards red shirt.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So he could have been good to go 2 weeks ago, really. Yeah. But I want him healthy. I mean, I would rather him, have a successful football career rather than rush him back for a playoff run. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. As far as this game, I think, Brody, you said it. Getting Sadiq touches early and often. He's had his 2 best games of the season the last 2 weeks. So Washington is definitely going to be keying on him. Alex McLaughlin, the safety, he's a good matchup for him. But obviously nobody can guard Sadiq. We've seen that. So still, don't be shy to target Sadiq up the seams, get him on some flat routes. I think just getting him involved will open up all the other receivers, put less pressure on the other receivers who are stepping up in big roles in the absence of Dak Moore, Eastu, and Gary Bryant, who is also a question mark heading into this weekend.
Yep.
I think Sadiq is one of the more interesting players in the country right now because I feel like everyone's talking about him. Like almost every NFL team was watching that USC Oregon game, and I feel like every fan I see is like, we need to get this kid on our roster. So he's just such a talented weapon, and I wouldn't be surprised if he went top 10 to 15 in the NFL draft because it seems like every offensive coordinator would want him. And I follow all those scheme pages, and they're all talking about Sadiq and the possibilities of him in their offense, just the run blocker he is, the pass catcher he is, the explosion he has at the position. So he's probably our best player period.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
we should just continually
I would agree.
go everything through him: run game, pass game, play action, everything. So.
Yeah. Speaking of his draft stock, I think Brody, you hit it on the head there. He's a top 10 to 15. I think 20 would be the lowest he would go. There's buzz that the Chiefs see him as a fit, as a Kelsey replacement, which would, I think, in an Andy Reid offense, that would just be awesome with Pat Mahomes throwing to him. I think that'd be a perfect situation in the NFL. But I mean, there's a bunch of aging tight ends in the league. Ravens, Mark Andrews, all those teams they're not gonna have those 28 to 32 first round picks this year. They're gonna be in the mid teens, early 20s. So I think he can end up in a favorable spot for him.
Yeah, there's also some buzz on the Broncos, which him with Knicks would be real fun to watch too. And Sean Payton led offense, Jimmy Graham role. Yeah, gets me excited.
Yeah. All right. I have a question for you guys. So if Washington wins, what will it look like?
Well, what do you mean for like Oregon? Or for like
so if Washington comes out on top, what will the game script have been? What needs to happen?
Well, I think like if Oregon doesn't get off the bus, maybe the plane just doesn't get there on time. I think that's the only way Washington comes out with the victory. But in all seriousness, I think if Damon Williams just plays the greatest game of his career, Jonah Coleman decides not to be the most overrated running back in the Big Ten, and their offensive line and defensive line kind of play, and Oregon just is all sick and they play terrible. I think that's the only way I see UW.
I think to be honest with you, I think the only way that UW wins this game is if Oregon beats themselves. I don't think there's any world where UW just beats them, like just straight up. Like I don't see a possibility where I'm sitting there watching the game, and going, "Yeah, UW was just better today. They were better." I think it'll only be if Dante Moore throws a couple interceptions, we fumble a few times, like defense blows a few coverages. That's the only way. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, I see that. I think the way that I would characterize a Husky W is that they get off to a start, like a very quick start, get that crowd going, and Oregon is kind of flat-footed. I think that could make it hard for the Ducks to come back against the crowd. The stakes of the situation are very high. If some guys get rattled, we saw last week some penalties that just didn't need to happen. Those could come back to bite the Ducks. Quite frankly, I don't see it happening. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I think letting the Huskies know a big proponent of upsets is the lesser team gaining confidence early, and then throughout the game, they know that they can win it. They can come out with it. And I think that's what Oregon has to watch out for.
Yes, I would agree. Something else to think about is if Oregon does lose this game by, some miracle, I still think they get into the playoffs. Like you lose to a now 9-3 UW team in UW, which is notorious for being hard to play at. I still think Oregon gets into the playoffs. I really do. I think we won't have a home game, but we'll still get in.
Yeah.
So I think the stakes are a little bit lower than we realize, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think they would slot in below Alabama. I think the only way they wouldn't is if BYU beats Texas Tech, which BYU fans are adamant that they're better than Oregon, even though Oregon has better strength of records, strength of schedule, would be 14-point favorites on a neutral field. They're slamming their hands down and they're making bad arguments. You can make a better argument against Ole Miss and Notre Dame just with their best wins and how they'll stack up, but they're just fighting a losing battle. I don't think that they're going to beat Texas Tech. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas Tech beat them by more than the first game they played. I mean, it's the biggest game in program history, and they got I think it was 27-6. But that game was not that close. Like, it was a complete – they played a Mickey Mouse schedule. They beat Utah, which is a great win. But I don't think the committee thinks that BYU is anywhere close to the talent level of Oregon. And if there wasn't auto bids, I'm not even sure if Texas Tech would be as high as they are. I think they're just playing their hands.
Yeah, I think as far as like the Ducks losing and getting in, I think if nothing chaotic happens, they get in with 2 losses. But I think there is a scenario where there are bid stealers, and if BYU beats Texas Tech, they're both going to be in it. The committee has shown respect to Texas Tech throughout the whole season. And then also Michigan is another candidate. If they take down Ohio State somehow, that's the best win in the country, and they'd be 10-2. They'd have a better win than Oregon. I think the committee respects Oregon more than Michigan, but I think just there is a scenario, and so you don't want to lose this game. You don't want to have your fate be up to the committee. You got to take care of business here.
But I mean, like I said, I don't think there is a world we lose this game. I'm going to be honest with you. Dan is good at firing up the guys, getting them going. I think these guys know what it means. And Sadiq, as potentially as last year, like for a lot of these guys, like they want to win. They do not like Washington. Like it's a hatred. Whereas I feel like the UW guys are kind of like they feel like a little bit more indifferent right now. But outside of Jonah Coleman hates the Ducks, but yet he sucks against the Ducks. So it's like, what are you doing, dude? You just sound like a bozo.
Well, half the Huskies are from Arizona, so
exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know what I mean. They're not real Husky, diehards, I guess. But we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can get into
can't develop their own talents.
We can get into the bets. So the main bets for this game are Oregon -6.5. My opinion, that's a little low. I think it should be over a touchdown for sure. At least -7.5, and we might see that flip before kickoff. I think you could see some money being laid on Oregon's side from there. Over under 50.5. I think for a rivalry game, I think that's a fair number. I would lean over.
Yeah.
I think that points will be put on the board by the Ducks especially, and I think the Huskies they're not going to be held to under 10 points, I don't think. I think they might be in the high teens or low 20s, and Ducks should score 30 plus. So I think that's a comfortable over right there. What do you guys think about that?
No, I couldn't agree more. Genuinely couldn't agree more.
Yeah. We can get into our weekly recommended bets. So as you can see at the bottom of the screen, Brody is 0-2. Me and Brendan are tied at the top at 1-1.
I would like to point out. I would like to point out. I did tell Bjorn 2 bets last time. I was not here. I did tell him to also do Jordan Davis and touchdown, but the odds were like kind of almost like they were like -150,
closer to -200 than even.
And so it was a gimme, but I'll keep it to 1 bet from now on. But
those Davis and touchdowns are always
he
gimmies.
Screwed me. I know they are gimmies. He screwed me though. He was 3 yards away. I don't know what. Dan, man. Put Davis in. Let him get 1 more carry. He's hitting, but whatever.
All right, so
my
bet this week is Oregon over 395 team yards. It's even odds. I think that number is way low. I think they could run for 200 just by themselves. And then Dante's over 250 yards the last 2 games. I don't see him. I see him getting 225 plus. So I think they'll soar over this number. If they get I could see them getting 250 in the first half and then kind of salting it away on the ground and still soaring over this number. So
I could see him getting that in the first half alone. So my bet for this week is Oregon -6.5. The fact that this is a closer game than USC, when I think USC is significantly more talented, they have better players at the premier positions. I think they have better line even, or it's debatable. Maybe not D-line, but I think USC is a significantly more talented team. That was -9.5 and the Ducks covered. I would even be tempted to do what I did with Penn State during the Big Ten Championship, where you ladder this with Oregon -6.5. You put a unit on that, and then you do half a unit on like -9.5, and then you do another one on -13.5. I think this line's too low, and I think Oregon's gonna roll a little bit more than Vegas thinks right now, even if Dak and DC are both out.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, either there's something that Vegas knows that nobody else knows, or this line is kind of absurd. But obviously, they probably know something. They have to.
Vegas knows. Vegas knows.
But they know. But -6.5 is absurd. Like I get. Like I talked about it a couple weeks ago. USC was our last real test. I don't think UW is going to be a test. Like I don't really understand this, but whatever. Free money is free money. And then when it comes to my bet, I'm going to go with just Oregon to score every quarter. We saw how good our offense was last week, and I expect it to continue to be that good, whether we're kicking field goals or taking points. But we run a pretty explosive offense. One of the better explosive offenses in the country. I'm not too concerned. I think we'll hit every quarter. I think we'll score.
Yeah, I like that one. I think over the past couple games, especially, take away Iowa and Wisconsin in the rough conditions. But yeah, in good weather games, they don't have these droughts, the scoring droughts where it's 15 minutes. I mean, that's a lot of time to put whether it's field goal or touchdown. So I like that one. I think the only way it doesn't hit is that if it's really a blowout in the fourth quarter, is salted away fourth quarter, and they just don't get within field goal range or anything like that, and just end up punting, and it doesn't really matter too much. So I think that's the only threat. If it's a close game, they're scoring in the fourth quarter.
I think there was also another bet that I wanted to just mention. We don't got to count it, but it was. Hold on, let me find it real quick. I believe it was really good odds though. It was like plus 400 or plus 450, and it was Oregon to win and the total over to be over 50.5. Let me find this.
So parlaying those two bets together.
No, it was already a parlay. Okay, never mind. The odds must have gone down actually, but it was Oregon to win and over 53.5 points, which was plus 210. So I mean, again, that's still pretty good. Don't straight bet. It's it's on FanDuel.
Yeah,
but just something else to keep in mind.
Yeah, trying to win you the viewers some money. So anything helps.
Yep.
All right, so we can get into our score predictions, which kind of correlates with our bets a little bit. I have Oregon 35, Washington 27. I see them covering, but I wouldn't put money on that. Even though I think the line should be higher, rivalry game, I just would stay away from that. But I think it goes over, and with 35 points, Oregon's going to get over 400 team yards. So.
My score prediction for the game is Oregon 56, Washington 3. That field goal is scored by our very own Camden Lewis. Just shows up and kicks for UW. So comes out of retirement and they make the field goal. So that's the only way they're scoring.
We can go with my prediction. I'm gonna say that UW scores 17 points. Kind of right around what Bjorn was talking about a little bit ago. I think they're going to put some points on the board. Not like anything too crazy. 17 points, that's 2 touchdowns and a field goal. But I think Oregon puts up another 42 points. I think final score will be 42-17 Oregon. All
righty. Sounds like I'm closer. Brody's blowout, and then Brendan's kind of in the middle.
I would still say mine's still a blowout.
It's still a blowout, yeah, but it's not 56-3. I think that would be amazing.
You know what? I think I want to go back and revise mine. I'm going to make it 63-3, actually. Right. I think I was being a little disrespectful to Dante Moore there, so that's on me.
I'll put a 70-7 on him like Notre Dame.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. All right. So the CFP rankings came out last night. It wasn't a huge surprise. Oregon jumped Ole Miss for the 6th spot. Ole Miss is 7. Nothing else, not too much else changed within the top 12. So if you guys have any takes on that, let them fly.
I guess I can go first. I know Brady has some very passionate feelings about Notre Dame again, but I'm going to just touch on a few things that I kind of liked. Michigan jumped up quite a bit, and Utah did. USC was not punished for their loss. They are now at 17. So that's still a good win in the committee's eyes for Oregon, which is finally Finally, what we've been needing. Something to mention is I think Oregon would be probably 14.5-point favorites over Texas Tech. It blows my mind that Texas Tech is even considered a good team. They are not good. They've beaten two like good teams, I guess, in Utah and against BYU. But again, like Brady mentioned it also, we would be huge favorites against BYU. There's a reason why 10-1 BYU is ranked number 11 and on the outside looking in on the playoffs, with their only loss being at Texas Tech. Like, I don't understand why BYU is being punished so much for that loss, but yet Texas Tech is being rewarded but is being rewarded so heavily for that win. It doesn't make much sense to me, but I don't know. I guess the committee has their ways of looking at it. I really, 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 really think that the Big 12 is extremely overrepresented in the playoffs here, or not even in the playoffs, in the top 25. I mean, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. They have 6 teams. 6 teams. That's absurd.
I think this is a huge time where obviously the committee has Texas Tech over Oregon right now and has basically the whole time. I think style points are going to come into play here, and what I mean by that is the way that the Ducks win the game. I think winning against Washington in a convincing fashion, that's a way that they could jump Texas Tech, but I didn't think it was plausible. I would have done it. I would have jumped Oregon over Texas Tech this week, but I don't think it was possible for the committee to jump 2 bye-week teams with Oregon.
But we have to realize here that Oregon's only loss is to the number 2 team in the country, whereas Texas Tech's loss is who did Texas Tech even lose to? I can't even remember.
ASU.
Again, Texas. What are we doing here? Texas, ASU is ranked number 20. But then when it comes to Miami and Notre Dame, you really value Notre Dame's losses, but then you don't value Oregon's loss, and then you just disregard Texas Tech's loss to it's ASU. They're 8-3, but they've kind of squeaked by some of these wins here.
We're seeing the hedge in their bet right here. I think they know that they have Texas Tech. I think they probably know they have Texas Tech too high, but they can't just drop them immediately, on a bye. And they know that they're going to play BYU again. And that'll go a long way towards where they land. I think it's worth pointing out that this is not even close to what the final rankings are going to be. Frankly, it doesn't matter what it is right now. This is just picking up the opinion of the committee, but Champ Week is going to be huge.
It does matter a little bit, though.
Huge. Yeah, a little bit, but there's still so many dominoes. So many dominoes to fall.
Yeah, I mean they. We'll see. I mean, realistically, there's a lot of teams that are ahead of Oregon right now that can lose. Ohio State lose to Michigan. I really think that's going to be a big game. I'm excited to watch that game.
Mm-hmm.
While I'm driving up to go watch. While I'm driving up to go watch Oregon put the belt on UW, but that'll be a fun game. I mean, I'm also excited to see the Egg Bowl. I mean, you kind of never know with Ole Miss. Excited to see what's going on.
That's true.
There's a little bit of buzz.
They did almost lose to Wazoo at home, so.
Yeah. Blake Shapen, Mississippi State, good quarterback. They got a good roster. They're generally not great in the SEC in recent years, but they always play Ole Miss tough. Yeah. So that should be it.
Wait, for which game? Sorry, did you say
the Egg Bowl?
Oh yeah, the Egg Bowl. No, for sure. And then also not to mention Georgia and Georgia Tech. You kind of never know with Georgia Tech. I think Haynes King has had an unbelievable year. He's not going to be a Heisman contender, but I believe Haynes King deserves the trip to New York. I believe he's the number. I think he should finish at number 4. I think what he has done for Georgia Tech should be noted. Should be completely noted, and the fact that it's he's not even in the he's a fringe top 10 guy is kind of ridiculous to me. I mean, I think Mendoza and Sayan, yes, they're good, but they're boring. They just complete passes, kind of like Bo Nix. Bo Nix finished 3rd a couple years ago. They're having an almost identical season to Bo Nix, and it's you're gonna punish a guy like Haynes King who's turned around his program really. Come on. But
do you think a guy like Jeremiah Love should be I think
Jeremiah Love
Jeremiah Love
should
will
win.
be third.
I think
You
Jeremiah
think he
Love
should win it?
win the Heisman. We'll see. Mendoza and Sayan are just like the issue with Ohio State, in my opinion, is they haven't played anybody like really good yet. I mean, you could say, oh, they beat Texas at home. They beat the hold on. They're going to have beaten a potentially they're right. Texas ranked number 16 right now, but when they lose to Texas A&M on Friday, Texas will have to be unranked at 8-4. And you're telling me that your only good win is against an 8-4 Texas team at home by 3 points in the first game of the season? Come on. Like, we all watched that game, and it was like watching paint dry. Like, it was abysmal. And
yeah,
like,
that's true.
We'll see what Ohio State does against Michigan. I think Michigan will. I think they'll give them a run for their money. I mean, it's a different level of hatred over there, and I'm excited. I really hope Michigan wins because that'll really shake up, honestly, the college football playoff committee as a whole. Like, they'll have to make some serious decisions. Which these old heads, man, they need to make some good decisions for once in their life. So we'll see. But
yeah.
Well, Brennan, to your point earlier, I'm really surprised the committee doesn't have BYU ahead of Texas Tech, considering how much they value losses over actually winning football games.
Exactly, right?
But I feel like this committee, like, there's been a lot of talk about it online. Like, they're really valuing the eye test. But if we're talking about the eye test, then like, why is Georgia not in consideration over A&M? Why is Oregon not over Texas Tech? Like, there's just so many like nuances that I just feel like their logic is inconsistent. They don't value the wins that need to matter. Like, I don't know. I do think if we are going off eye test and like who would win on a neutral field, like, I absolutely think Notre Dame is in consideration to be in the position they are in. But at the end of the day, like, what are we doing to the sport if we're valuing losses in the eye test over like actual like how the teams play and come to perform? Because you can look at a team on paper and on the roster and they have a ton of 4 or 5 stars. Their blue chip ratio is really good, but they just don't show up and perform because of their coach or because of the weather or whatever circumstance. But like, gosh, BYU is only 10-1 team that's not in the top 7 right now. Like, everyone else is 11-0 or 10-1, and their committee hates on BYU, and they prop up the brands that they want to push and that are going to get viewers in Notre Dame and Oklahoma, and they're snubbing teams like Miami, even Utah.
But like, the other thing with like Notre Dame is, I would argue Notre Dame is not a very big brand anymore. Like, do you guys know any Notre Dame fans? Like, you guys are around the sport a fair bit. I've lived on the East Coast, and I know one Notre Dame fan. I've met one Notre Dame fan. Have you guys ever met one?
I have not.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
like,
I've been on Twitter for all this discourse, and I see Ole Miss fans being like, how did Oregon jump us? Texas Tech fans like talking trash to like every single person, and even BYU fans. There are so many BYU fans and Miami fans on Twitter just fighting for their position. I have not seen one Notre Dame fan, and that's kind of why I'm kind of chilling my opinion on it, because I don't care. Like, they're a good team, and I do not want to face them in the second round, but like, they're just I don't know why the committee just continually props them up.
And the other thing is I was listening to Josh Pate talk about it because he's very involved. Obviously, he's a big college football streamer. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Like, it's a phenomenal point. They don't even exist. But I was listening to Josh Pate talk, and he was saying like what the committee does when it comes to the CFP is they use like almost like a math algorithm, because I mean, they obviously can't watch every game, but it feels like these dudes only watch SEC games. It feels like these guys all sit down on their chairs and they turn on the SEC channel and that's all they watch. And so what happens is they use it's like an algorithm that they have to help kind of like put the teams in place, and then they just pick their favorite ones to be, they adjust it a little bit by picking teams that they like, which, go figure, are all SEC teams. And so it's just a joke. The committee needs some sort of rework, because I don't like the system. It's just not good.
We've said that for years, though. With the BCS, obviously that was not the answer.
No,
Mathematically
it was
choosing
not.
2 teams, 14 playoff. I mean, there were complaints with that, with FSU being left out but undefeated,
They
and then
deserve to
just
be
like
left out though. Like,
good
let's be
team.
honest.
Oh yeah, they did, but there were good
Team
teams
enjoyed
just like right
madness.
outside the bubble that arguably could have competed for a national championship. And Ohio State proved that last year as I think there was a 7 seed, 7 or 8 seed, but. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much nuance to these rankings, and there's so many inconsistencies that we're seeing with this 12-team playoff and SEC bias, and I think there's always going to be complaints, and we're heading for a scenario where there's going to be a lot of fan bases that can complain, especially if there are a bunch of 2-loss teams, 1-loss teams. I mean, Texas A&M got Texas. That's not an easy game. Georgia,
No.
it's not an easy game against Georgia Tech, even though they're still going to make the SEC title game, most likely. So Alabama 2-loss, BYU, I mean, that's if they beat Texas Tech, that's another nightmare scenario. There's just nobody's going to win, I don't think. And the committee's always going to have some hate.
Yeah, I mean, I get. I'm a baseball guy. Like I get propping up the SEC. The SEC it's a good program. It's a good conference. Like it's definitely probably the best when it comes to just all around support. Like the stadiums are huge. Football down south is a different level. But like you got to start crediting some of these West Coast teams. Some of these, even North teams like up north, like the Big Ten teams, like. Ohio State and Michigan have won it the last 2 years in a row. Like, don't be surprised when Indiana, Oregon, or Ohio State they win it again. Like, it's another Big Ten team, and it's like, at what point are you going to realize that the SEC isn't as dominant as what it used to be? And it's a real shame that the Pac-12 ended the way it did, because right now, if we're looking at it, the Pac-12 would be. I think the Pac-12 would be probably the second best conference. I think that Big Ten wouldn't be as strong as it is, and I think it'd be Pac-12 at number 2, and it's a lot more exciting football to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Pac-12 was definitely peaking.
People really say that the SEC is any given day, but in the Pac-12, it genuinely was any given day. I mean, you're trotting out your super powered roster at Oregon or USC, and you're playing against a Stanford team that has nothing to lose, that runs a completely different style of offense. Like Big Ten, you know what you're getting. You're getting ground and pound. You have these RPOs, these completion percentage quarterbacks, whereas you go to the Pac-12 and I mean, you're facing Wazoo with the air raid offense. Then you're facing a team like Oregon back in the day, who was really explosive running game, and it just fluctuates. There's just so much variety there, and the SEC I just don't feel like it has that kind of variety. It's just any given day until it's actually any given day, and it's just I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just weak.
Yeah, I get that.
I think also, not to cut you off, Brent, but this is a great point. I think Big Ten, the only way they get 4th team in is if Michigan upsets Ohio State this weekend, which is possible. They were 24.5-point underdogs last year, and they straight up beat them. I think they are. It's a lot closer this year. So,
yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. I think we're gonna have a loaded podcast next week post game.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna do Monday. We're gonna do Monday.
The Lane Kiffin news. Who knows what's gonna happen? But supposedly, I've seen some Baton Rouge. Supposedly bought a house in Baton Rouge for $1.5 million. I saw it on one of the LSU like the LSU community website. Some dude was talking about it. Like, do you guys know any realtors? Any people that live there that know? So we'll see.
Yeah. But, a lot of things are gonna happen this weekend. So
a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching and listening. I'm Bjorn Bergstrom, Brody Gobler, Brendan Everly. Have a good Thanksgiving and go Ducks. Hopefully they get the dubs weekend against Washington.
Husky 8
Ducks. Yep.